So the Surface Pro 9 has a few interesting tricks up its sleeve. Let's talk about them right now. The first thing that surprised me is the performance. We actually got a 7800 Cinebench score, which is comparable to last gen's Intel gaming laptops. And honestly, for a device this slim, that's really all you need. And my goal is to use this as my all-in-one, all uses device as a desktop replacement. I've been hoping that the performance was there before. Obviously, there are laptops a lot faster, there are MacBooks a lot faster, but the portability of this device you really can't beat. The next thing that actually surprised me was how well the pen input worked. So initially, with the Surface Pro 8, they had upgraded the pen input, and they have the new Slim Pen 2 here. And my daughter and I use a Wacom tablet. She actually uses it most of the time now because she's really into art. And I'm a reformed artist turned art entrepreneur. But what I noticed here is that the lines are so smooth. The activation of the pen and the point is so quick, and it really helps that you have the 120 hertz display now, which means the screen flickers 120 times per second. So it feels very smooth, and it writes very smooth now. There's no lag. The lines are straight, even if you draw slowly. And we even tested it in Photoshop. We tested it in Whiteboard, and the lines were smooth. I really liked how it felt in Photoshop. I don't use Photoshop a lot, but I know a lot of people do. So one of the issues was that the lines didn't feel as good in Photoshop. Now they feel better. The reason I'm showing lines first, I know a lot of you want this device for note taking, but really this device is an artist's dream because you could start working on something on this device, and then you could take it to another computer later, or you could use this as your all-in-one device. The lines are really smooth on here. I mean, they feel great. Also on Photoshop, the vibration feel when you write is really smooth. And the point, I like how they changed in the Slim Pen 2, the point, but now when you put that point down, the dot is right below it. It's not to the side like it used to be sometimes in the past. Even if it is, it quickly moves along with it. You could write or draw really quickly, and you're going to get some really good lines. Now this feels like almost a ballpoint pen when you're writing or drawing. So obviously in something like maybe OneNote, it was already good enough, but now it's even better, and I'm loving it so far. So let's close that. So I had my daughter test out the difference between the gaming, my gaming experience or my son's gaming experience, because we actually connected this to a dedicated GPU, and I had her test the drawing experience of the Intel version versus the ARM version. And this is the drawing experience she had here. One thing she said though is, I thought she was going to like the ARM version better because the ARM version doesn't have a fan. It's completely silent. It's not hot. So I just assumed she was going to love the ARM version more, but truth be told, she told me she actually liked the Intel version better. I said, what about the heat? And she said, well, I'd prefer more performance over something that's cool to the touch because I always use my drawing glove. So she usually uses a drawing glove, so the little bit of heat doesn't really affect her. Now, don't get me wrong, the ARM version, it did do well. It even worked in Photoshop, and the line drawing experience was exactly the same. But what happened is we connected the keyboard to the Surface Pro 9 ARM version, the 5G version, while she was drawing, and it kind of froze up. She had to close it. So the point is there are a couple of glitches here and there, but if you want complete silence and you want 2 hours more battery life, then the ARM version is for you, especially if you're only using things like Microsoft Word, Teams, Outlook, most of the Microsoft apps, and you don't want to be plugged in. To me, honestly, you just most people are craving this unlimited battery life thing, but to me, smooth experience and performance are paramount, especially as an entrepreneur. The most important thing to me is performance, then the ease of use, then the battery life, because I can go plug in when I need to plug in, or at this point, even the Surface Pro 9 Intel version, it'll last you through a very long flight, even if you're using it the whole time. So it'll last you through a very long meeting. So we got about 7 hours on average, 7 to 7.5 on the Intel version with the brightness on 50%. On the ARM version, we got about 8.5 to 9 hours. There was still 10% left at about 8.5 hours. So you can get close to 9 hours if you use 50% brightness. At 50% brightness, the screen still looks the same. You really can't tell the difference, except that it's not blinding you. So that's the biggest difference. You're not going to get blinded at 50%. Below 50%, it's usable. So at 30%, if you're just taking notes, especially if you change the background color to a darker color than white so it's easier to see, or you just zoom in, you can get over 9 hours on the 5G ARM version. And on the Intel version, I'm going to test it some more tomorrow, but I'm estimating if you're really a heavy user and you're doing video editing, for example, it's probably only going to last 3 hours. But if you're doing a bunch of Chrome or Edge browser tabs open, Teams open, on a meeting, you're doing some note taking in OneNote, you can get anywhere from 6 to 7 hours. Obviously, over time, batteries degrade. So 6 to 7 hours is for the brand new version. That's why people are wanting the ARM version to take off, because with the lack of heat, the battery will not degrade as quickly, which means you'll be getting 8 hours of battery life 2, 3 years from now, almost just like a cell phone, especially if you don't keep it plugged in all the time, which is what also generates heat. But if I had to choose one, I would choose the Intel version. And the reason for that is because of the dedicated GPU. Uh, you can use Thunderbolt with a dedicated GPU, and that's really because of Thunderbolt. If ARM eventually has Thunderbolt, then that would be the best of both worlds. But since ARM does not support Thunderbolt right now, or USB 4, which gives you really high speed, so you can plug in something like this Aorus 3080 that I had plugged in, and my son and my daughter did a little gaming test with me for fun. So we're playing Minecraft with the Surface Pro 9 and the 3080 dedicated GPU. Looks pretty smooth. And they were able to play Forza 5 at over 30 frames per second on ultra setting. Seems to be locked on 30 frames per second. I don't know what was wrong with it, but it looked beautiful. We were playing it on this 4K TV I have in here, and my son loved it. He said Minecraft looked great. We even played Minecraft Dungeons, and that looked great. It obviously that's not a game that needs a lot of graphics, but it still looked great. And when you use an eGPU, you could turn your Surface Pro into a workstation, which is what I'm doing. So the Cinebench score now is high enough where I can multitask. What I will say is I wish the 32 gigabytes of RAM version was cheaper. If that version was cheaper, it would be the perfect device. But I just went ahead and tested the 16 gigabytes of RAM version because 2600 or 2700 for the 32 gigabytes of RAM version just seemed too much. I could buy another desktop for the price difference that will be faster than my Surface Pro. So that's probably what I'll do for really intense work. But on the other hand, the portability of this device, you really cannot beat. It's super portable. It's super portable. The portability here is amazing. The problem with this computer right here, the Surface Laptop Studio, is it's portable, but I move around a lot in the house, running away from the noise and the kids and the dog and everybody else. So trying to find a quiet spot. Being able to easily pick this up with one hand and just close is, it just makes life easier. I can go on a walk with this and hold it in my hand and it wouldn't be that heavy. I would not take the Surface Laptop Studio on a walk. And the other thing is I thought that the keyboard on the Surface Laptop Studio was the real reason why I was buying it, because being able to type on a keyboard is very important. But 9 times out of 10, I usually have a desk at a coffee at my office, in my office to use, so I can put this on the desk. But obviously, if you don't have a desk and you're at the airport waiting for your plane and you put this on your lap, the kickstand will rub into your legs. My trick to that is I just put my laptop bag under it, put my laptop bag on my lap, and then it's perfectly fine. And like I said, because of the performance improvement, this is making me go back towards the Surface Pro Intel version. The other issue here is the reflection, as you can see. Hopefully one day they can fix that. You can buy a matte screen protector. Hopefully they come out with new ones. But then that takes away from the writing and feel a little bit different than it usually does if you don't have the screen protector. Obviously, if you have the screen protector to protect the screen from cracking, that's another story. But most people, they don't have it for that purpose. They're doing that because maybe they want to avoid scratches. But like I said, the writing experience on this is just night and day from, let's say, for example, the Surface Pro 4. This is so much better than what it was 5 years ago, that now I understand why they bought the company Entrig, the technology behind it, and they slowly improved it little by little to where now in almost every app, it feels really good. So this is how the webcam looks and sounds on the Surface Pro Intel version, Surface Pro 9. And the main difference between the Surface Pro 9 Intel versus the Surface Pro 9 ARM 5G version is the fact that you have a little bit more features in the ARM version because they have that neural chip provided by Qualcomm. So, for example, they have the studio voice focus. So right now the air conditioning is on and you might hear a little bit of it. And as a matter of fact, if I turn on my fan, you'll probably hear a lot of it. Whereas on the ARM version, there's a voice focus effect where you can actually make the background noise go away and it keeps the quality of your voice the same. That's something that a lot of editing programs don't do. So when you have a lot of background noise with the fan and you use an editing program to remove noise, a lot of times it makes your voice sound like you're speaking in a can like this. So I like how the ARM version does that. That's the main feature I like, and the background blur. So you could do it right in the camera app. But if you think about it, if you are doing a meeting, Teams has a lot of those features built in. Zoom has a lot of those features built in. Even Skype does. And other messaging apps, they have those features built in. Maybe it doesn't sound as good, but if you want to remove sound post processing or post doing a video, you could do that. But obviously, if you're in a meeting in Zoom, they have noise removal, and they have it in Teams and other meeting apps as well. So since they have those features in all of those other apps, the one thing I see that is really cool about the ARM version is if you wanted to make talking head videos like this, remove the sound and blur the background, and have a really fast workflow, you can now do that on the ARM version. And this is how the video and the sound sounds on the Surface Pro ARM edition. So I have the sound up and my fan on full blast to see if it affects the picture and the sound quality. And hopefully the studio effect feature is kicking in. I'm going to see if I could turn it off right now and see if that makes the sound go up. I actually don't see that option here. It's just a little star. So it doesn't say anything about the background noise. So we'll just see how it sounds. Okay, I have a fan on full blast right next to the Surface Pro ARM edition, and I just turned on the feature that is called voice focus. So let's see if this time you hear me without the fan. In the previous segment, the voice focus feature was not on. So let's see how this sounds. So other than that, Surface Dock 2 works with it, but also, like I said, Thunderbolt 4, I usually plug it on this side, plug that into my dedicated GPU, and then you could plug in 4 monitors to that thing. Obviously, a dedicated GPU is expensive. I have the version with a 3080, but you could get a cheap GPU, or quote unquote cheap compared to what it used to be. You can get a $250 GPU, buy an enclosure for $150. So for $400, you could turn this into a workstation and have better graphics. And you could upgrade your graphics over time. And maybe when they come out with the Surface Pro 10 or 11, then you can plug that into the dedicated GPU. So you'll always have the video performance there. The other thing I wanted to point out that I really liked that no one mentioned is now on the bottom, they make it really easy to access the hard drive finally. Before, to upgrade your hard drive, they had a little screw here or a little pin you pushed in. Now they made it even easier. You just push down and you open this up, and there's a hard drive in there. And if you want to upgrade your hard drive, it's easy access. Hopefully, eventually they make it to where it's easy access for the battery too, for those that want to keep their devices for a very long time. But honestly, I look at this almost like a cell phone, especially since I'm an entrepreneur. After a year or so, I'm upgrading because I don't want to create any uh, hardware junk that fills up all the landfills. So I'll just sell this on eBay and then just upgrade to the latest and greatest. And so, because technology is advancing so quickly that, I know people like to keep their devices for 4 years, especially if you're in college and you don't want to, or you don't have the budget to continue to buy new devices. Then I definitely understand this is something that can last you through your whole college career, especially if you're using it for note taking, Word and Teams or Zoom meetings. Oh, and the last thing that I really like now is the tablet function is so much better. As you can see, this is so smooth. It's not iPad smooth, but it's good enough now. And with these boxes that pop up here, makes it really easy to multitask. I can move it to the left side. That's on the left. Now that's, then I can move this to the right, like so. I can do 4 squares. So you just put this here. And I guess Cinebench doesn't like, some programs don't do it, but most programs do, especially browsers. So if you have a browser open, that will do it. So you put one there. I put one here. My app we're building here. And then we put another one there. And there you go. I have 4 little screens on one 13-inch display. And then if I want to maximize one, I just press that. I'm doing all of this with my finger. It wasn't that easy to do before. Now the taskbar gets bigger when you take the keyboard off. So if I take the keyboard off, the only thing I don't like is that these magnets, they are strong, and sometimes it's kind of clumsy to get the pen out of here. And if you grab the pen, you end up touching the taskbar. See, I'm touching the taskbar already. So you kind of have to just go like that and then you start writing. And again, I really can't explain how good this pen is now. Hopefully some of you have tested this and you could tell me if I'm just overreacting or if it really is better. Again, this is a Slim Pen 2. You can erase with the bottom like a pencil, but they call it a pen. So anyway, that's how well it works. And other than that, the gaming experience was pretty good. If you have an EG, if you don't, you could obviously play games that aren't graphics intensive. So, you have a tablet, a gaming, basic gaming computer, and a work device or a college device, and a drawing tablet all in one. So, like I said, the sweet spot to me is the 16 gigabyte of RAM version with the i7. The other main downside is this one only comes with 256 gigabytes of RAM. So that is not good. So you're going to have an external SSD. That's what I did. I got an external SSD, cheaper, or you can upgrade the hard drive that's in here. I just started with an external SSD, so I don't have to mess around with that upgrading stuff yet. But if you do upgrade, it's a 2230, I believe it's a hard drive, or look up the exact hard drive you need. It's obviously cheaper to upgrade it yourself if you can, than spending $300-400 to upgrade it. And then, like I said, the next generation, hopefully they make the 32 gigabyte of RAM version cheaper. Other than that, I love the device so far. If I had to choose one and I wasn't making this a workstation, I would choose the ARM version if it was just a secondary device for note taking and using Teams and Microsoft Word. I would get the ARM version because if that's all you're doing, it doesn't have any heat. So it's a little bit quieter because no fans come on. And it's cool to the touch. And you get another hour and a half to 2 hours of battery life, maybe about 20% more battery life. So if you're in that boat, get the ARM version. If you're someone like me that you like the performance, you want to turn this into a workstation eventually and add your own eGPU, then I would recommend getting the Intel version. Other than that, we'll be doing more case studies and examples on how to use this device, in-depth drawing reviews, in-depth battery testing reviews. Just let us know what you want to see, and we will see you on the next one.